Greetings. Well, I just want to say how wonderful the weather is right about now. Sun vibes. Yeah, can you see I'm in sun vibes? Okay, it's absolutely lovely. It's sweltering and it's lovely. Okay, so we've got a lovely show this evening ready for you. But I do want to get started with some news, and I'm going to try to make it as least emotional as possible, because we all know about the shooting that took place in Buffalo, and it was quite distressing. When I start to get into it, it's quite an emotional and quite emotive subject. But I want to steer away slightly to the source of this conversation around this shooting, that took place. And I'm not sure how much people know about the dynamics around the great replacement theory, but I wanted to address that, because this is kind of at the source of this conversation. So the Buffalo shooting, let's go there. So the Buffalo shooting, what is the great replacement theory? Because behind this is an 180-page document, that this young person put together, a manifesto discussing, his plans, his thoughts. So the Buffalo shooting, what is the great replacement theory? Mentioned by Peyton Gendron's manifesto. So the great replacement theory was referenced back in 2019 at the Christchurch mosque attack in New Zealand and the El Paso shooting in Texas in the same year. It's also been discussed by several right-wing politicians in the US. Now, it's really important to look up someone called Tucker Carlson, who is a broadcaster in the States, because he's been kind of riding this wave, and now he's acting like he didn't really ride this wave at all. So before carrying out this deadly attack on Buffalo supermarket gunman, Peyton Gendron claimed its customers belonged to a culture trying to ethnically replace my own people. 11 out of the 13 victims were Black, and we know that, there was a grandmother. We don't go there. We don't, we don't go there with the elderly, right? And in an 180-page manifesto being investigated by police, the 18-year-old, imagine 18-year-old described Black Americans as immigrants, as replacers who invade our lands, live on our soil, attack and replace our people. Wow. The Great Replacement Theory has been referenced by several white extremists before, including those responsible for the Christchurch mosque shootings in New York, New Zealand, and El Paso terror attacks in Texas. But it is also used in varying forms by people on the US right, with some Republican politicians, candidates, and broadcasters claiming Democrats are plotting to replace white people with immigrants to help them stay in office. What is the Great Replacement Theory, and where does it come from? The Great Replacement Theory is a modern form, takes its name from the 2011 book Le Grand Replacement by French white nationalist writer Renaud Camus. Camus's book lays out the far-right conspiracy theory that non-white people are replacing white people in Europe and the US. It's almost laughable. Believers claim this is being done in two ways. Mr. Tim Squirrel, head of communications and editorial at the UK-based think tank, the Institute of Strategic Dialogue, explains one strand is immigration, with proponents claiming that the government and other elites are either deliberately importing non-white people or are powerless to stop them from entering, he tells Sky News. In some cases, this has an anti-Semitic basis, with Jews acting as the elites who want to eliminate the white race. At the 2017 Unite rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, where 3 people died and almost 50 were injured, white nationalists were heard shouting, "Jews will not replace us." Great replacement theorists also believe non-white people often deliberately have more children than, this is funny, have more children than white people in a bid to outnumber them. Listen, keep your babies coming, as a doula, I sanction it and I ordain it. Keep those babies coming. In his online manifesto, also entitled The Great Replacement, Brenton Tarrant, who murdered 51 people at the mosque in Christchurch in 2019, repeatedly claimed it's the birth rates. Listen, we're fertile. That's the truth. We'll always be the most fertile race. We were the first, we're the last, we're the everything. Dr. Gavin Hart lectured in criminology at Liverpool Hope University, describes the theory as nothing new and a well-established trope that has been peddled by groups on the extreme right for a long time. According to this theory, the end result of the increasing flow of migration from Asia and Africa and forms of internal demographic engineering is a form of white genocide in which white Christians would either be diminished, destroyed, or enslaved. There is, of course, no evidence to support this argument, but that hasn't impacted upon its longevity. So it goes on to talk about how how did it rise in the prominence in the US. Take a look at that. But these kinds of conversations, they're just such low level, low density. We have a planet that we're going to have to share with people we like and we don't like. That's just how it is. Get over yourselves. Keep our babies coming. We're naturally going to replace you. That's the truth. I'm just going to say that. Okay, so let's just move on from that one. And then let's look at some of, because there's a whole thing around the food crisis and it's getting real. It is definitely getting real. And, we had a conversation a little while ago when we had Go Grow With Love, our sister, in fact, our sister, Sandra Salazar. I'll speak to about her again in a minute. And we talked about growing food and the importance of growing food and, having that kind of self-sufficiency, right? And we know that this Ukraine crisis is, impacting on, people not being able to get things, get certain food, wheat. There's a baby formula shortage in Canada. There, the rise in food costs, it's becoming very, very real. I saw an article today, actually, which was talking about officers should use discretion over stealing to eat, says police watchdog. Now, I wonder, if that, also if it was Black people going out to do that, would they use discretion? But we know that that's not a conversation they're having about us, right? But I did see a really interesting article, and I thought, what, this is our time. This is our time. Hold on a minute. Give me a second. This is our time. I got our sister here. She's coming in a minute. And the Ukraine crisis, can Africa replace Russia's gas supply to Europe? Now, I think it's definitely possible. And I think this is a real opportunity for our people to engage, back home and start creating that infrastructure. We are the most powerful continent on the planet. So African countries are among those hoping to increase their exports of gas to the European Union after the EU committed to reduce its reliance on Russia supplies following the invasion of Ukraine. Russia's suspension of deliveries to Poland and Bulgaria over the refusal to pay in rubles, the Russian currency, was a stark reminder of the threat facing the Eurozone. Russia has the largest natural gas reserves in the world and is the largest exporter, accounting for around 40% of Europe's imports. The EU wants to cut supplies by 2/3 by the end of the year and become independent of all its fossil fuels by 2030. However, energy economist Carol Nakeli says that with the combined exports of Africa's big players in the industry, Algeria, Egypt, and Nigeria, amounting to less than half of what Russia supplies to Europe, they are unlikely at the moment to compensate for any losses in Russia's supplies. The good news is there will be greater interest in countries that already have the resources to replace Russia as Russian gas, and Africa is in a very good position. Yeah, so we're going to see more investment. So I'm kind of looking forward to our people really putting ourselves on the map around this thing. Yeah, we're very, very reliant, and we need to be reliant on our homeland. So I'm interested in that. I'm going to keep my eye on that. So this evening, now I'm going back to Sister Sandra Salazar, because she just, we've been connecting ever since she came on the show. Yeah, so if you go back and see her show, it's fantastic about growing food. And she contacted me last week. I'm gonna hail her up because she contacted me last week and she said she woke up from a dream. She had a dream and she said she asked me about having this sister on, and I thought fantastic, and it was perfectly timed because I did, the sister we have on tonight, she came on with two others recently to discuss, the ICU documentary. So we'll have a follow-up from that. But she is an amazing woman in her own right. And every time I mention her, like when I sent this out today and people found out that I was, she was going to be on, people were like, that the way in which people speak so fondly of her, it's really, really beautiful. And it's really, really quite sweet. And so I'm really pleased to have her on this evening. So let's get started on that. And our sister tonight, Kandake Makonnen, has been in the field of holistic health for over 30 years and in clinical practice for over 12 years, working in the private healthcare. She holds a Bsc Hons in Medical Herbalism and has operated out of various clinics, working along specialists in areas such as gynaecologists, diabetic specialists, and endocrinologists. Kandake has also lived in the Caribbean for 15 years, following a holistic way of life as a Rastafarian, using nature as her teacher. She has also been studying traditional African healing for the past 7 years with the Dogon people of Burkina Faso, which I can't wait to get into that. She hosted a radio show for over 5 years and has been teaching health courses for over 10 years. Her classes serve as an instrument for change in the lives of the course participants. Kandake is currently writing her second book on holistic herbal female health. So I was looking at a proverb for her this evening. And sister, if you can come, you can pop in anytime. I know that we've been trying to get you on. She literally just got home, bless her. And there's a beautiful, yes, I'm just going to say it while you're here, sweetheart. And she says, and this is a wonderful, I found this today, and it was, where you sit when you are old shows where you stood in your youth. So with that, beloved, welcome. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear, my sister.
I've heard nothing but lovely things about you, Nothing but lovely things. So it's an absolute pleasure to kind of get to know you in this way, Queen. So where do we start with the plethora of knowledge that you have? So let's start from the very beginning. If we look at even at this proverb, you've been doing this work for over 30 years, sis. So I just, perhaps it's, there's a lot of people, different age groups, different age brackets, who will be looking at this or getting on their journey or starting out. There's a lot of people, when I said this today, some people were saying, yeah, I need to watch this tonight because I need this. So, I expect a lot of feedback from this one. And so, sometimes people don't know where to start. So how did you start? What was the catalyst for change, sis?
Okay, so first of all, thank you, Sister Mook, for inviting me back onto your show. I give thanks. And I got such good feedback from the last one. Let me first of all acknowledge the world of the divine, and I want to acknowledge our ancestors, those whose shoulders on which we stand. I also want to acknowledge the viewers, those who tune in and listen to, platforms like this where they're constantly being edified. So we give thanks for that. Um, when you asked when I first started, I am going to say that, and then I'm going to come to the Jamaica bit, I think. Um, I don't think it's where I first started, it's where it started with me. And when I first realized about a higher connection is when I was informed by my grandmother who grew me that when my mother was pregnant with me in Jamaica, she got a dream. She was here in the UK at the time. And the dream was her mother who had already transitioned. She had a baby and she said, Giata, take this. And it was a baby girl. And when she woke up, she knew that now she had 7 children. And she knew it was my mother who was pregnant. So remember, in those days, it's telegram. So she had to send a telegram to my mother's older sister to ask, is she pregnant? And they literally had to band me down in the womb to bring me over. And in those days, when our parents were coming over, when you got to the airport, they would test your urine. And if you were pregnant, they'd put you back on the plane back. So my mother had to dodge the line to get out because, of course, she knew that she was pregnant. So when I acknowledge the ancestors, because they directed my path before I got on this planet. Yeah, I would have been born in a different place. So that's why I have to acknowledge them first. And many things growing up, but one of the key things for me is that when I got into my teens, this Rasta thing was there, all these red, gold, green, and and I started wearing all the long dresses and all. Cut a long story short, my mother was like, you 13 years old, leave my house if you're going to deal with Rasta. But something, now I was always a bright girl in school, but something kept saying to me, well, why is it that what everybody else says can be acknowledged and have some kind of standing and bearing, but what the Black man says doesn't? So I wanted to know more. I wanted to hear more. I was grown up in the church by my grandmother, so I had the whole teaching, but my soul was searching more for me. And I must say, when I went back to Jamaica when I was 9 years old, when my grandmother took me and I lived and went to school up there, and I saw my father for the first time, he was a dreadlock Rasta man. So that was something in itself. So for me, it was, I say, being born between two worlds, coming in between two worlds. And that has carried on into my life now, between the spiritual and the physical. There's been this necessary to bridge these worlds. So by the time I was 19, I was going regularly to Jamaica. By the time I was 21, I was out of here, leaving Babylon and that whole thing, And at the time, I was going to go into Birkbeck University. And so obviously, when I decided not to go in, I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Is she gone mad? That whole thing. But what was happening was they were now taking my life over. When I was here, I did like 1 year in working as a legal secretary in that world, and I knew from then it wasn't going to work. Me and them, it wasn't going to work. It just wasn't going to work. So I took that leap. I literally leaped into the unknown. And I didn't know how I was going to live. But I put everything, because I now wanted to find God. I wanted to find that origin, and that was my journey. I wanted to go deeper. Who is God? What is God? I wanted to know this, and that's what took me to Jamaica. I wanted to go deep. So I was studying Buddhism. I was part of the PACM, not the PACM, sorry, the All African People's Revolutionary Party. So at the time, I was searching, and Rastafari gave for me a holistic picture of clean mind, clean heart, the food, that everything that you put in your body, your temple, it gave a very holistic, a black God, a black king, our anciency. I was like, okay. And at the time, again, I have to acknowledge Head Start bookstore that was down on West Green Road, which fed many of us at the time. So all of those things added up, and I wanted to first search for spirituality, but I wanted to know my culture. And I just took that leap of faith and I said, you know what, me and Babylon now go work. So I left and I started that whole independent spiritual journey. Never independent, it's always interdependent. I hope that gives you some.
Yeah, absolutely. So what age did this start for you?
I know from I was 13, I was wearing the long dresses and all of that. So from I was 13, but I must say, I was a little light in church. So I was the one who could always recite the 66 books of the Bible from Genesis right down to Revelation. So I would stand up, I would give my testimony. I was baptized when I was very young. They would use me as an example. So I always loved God. It was because I love church. I love the spirit. I would see it moving. I loved it. And so that love for that spiritual, and my grandmother inculcated that in me. So that love, that deep love for the spiritual, and the fact that my ancestors, which I didn't even really fully understand, but I know now that they were, guiding me. That whole thing, by 13, it started bust out. But my mum was not of that persuasion. So there was all that. So by 13, it started to come out, wanting to lock my hair,
You couldn't hold back. You couldn't hold back.
It was coming out, and I didn't even realize what was happening. It was just happening. I was going to school with all of these badges, and it was my mum that even brought it to my awareness that you're not going to do it here. But I was just going with that whole culture at the time. So yeah. And by the time I was 19, I'd made the decision that I'm not going to stay in this country. I wanted to go and go deeper into Black culture, African culture, because at the time, Rastafari was the one standing for Africa. When many people were saying all derogatory and negative things, we had a knowing about ourselves that even if it meant our own family would turn our backs against us, their backs against us, it was so deep that it didn't matter. The whole world, in fact, they did, and there was all of this, but something deep inside was just holding on to this, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was divine.
So then let's fast forward now, because your journey then takes you into, clinical practice. You start journeying into health. You start to concentrate your spiritual path into health. It's from reading your bio, it's like that was your concentration. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing. It's not separate and apart from, because when you're living, it's a way of living. It's not even separate. It's just that I began to specialize in herbal medicine. Yeah, because we were planting our own foods. We were growing things. That was our life. We take coconut and make coconut milk and make coconut oil, and Rasta them time even more so use banana leaf if you have wound, and it was so deep and rich. I'd sleep over at the seaside, and in the morning we'd go and catch fish in the morning and have the fire at night. It was in the hills. It was oh man, sis. In the mornings we would go to the spring, or I'd go to the sea, whichever one, and watch the sun rising over the hill and go under the spring water. It was a it was a way of life. So what we ate was natural foods and the herbs. But what I found was that I would have, like you see here in my kitchen here, all these jars. I used to do this. I'd buy the herbs, or if I'd go and get some herbs picked, and I'd put a label on the jar and I'd put it in my house, so I started to have all these rows of jars. So when the time came now, and I was coming to the UK, because I was very much involved in the music scene out there as well, very much. And most people actually knew me as an artist, Kandake. That's the part I didn't put in the bio.
Okay.
But that's where people know me from. And then, the health side, was also part of that. But it was a way of life. It wasn't compartmentalized. But when I came here, I thought, okay, I came to the UK, and I thought I want to go even deeper into this health thing. And what started it was a very good brother of mine. He was the convener for the Jamaica Committee for Reparations. And at the time, I was the secretary for the Committee for Reparations. And we had people like the Nigerian High Commission on it. We had, what's his name? Anthony Gifford, who's a lord here. He was on that committee. There was the lawyer who represented Kwame Nkrumah. It was a very strong, this was where Rasta was dealing with things. And so he was the convener and I was the secretary on that committee. And during that time, he got sick. And initially they thought it was sarcoidosis and then realized it was cancer of the lungs. Fast forward, we then started, that's when my journey into herbal medicine began in earnest, because we were looking, deeper how we can assist. And so there was a whole journey there. But one of the most powerful things for me was when I went with him to see his doctor, and he had taken scans, he had a shadow. And he had taken these scans and prior with the shadows, and then he'd obviously taken, the second scans to see where he was, because they were talking about doing some other kind of treatment on him. But in the meantime, he'd been using herbs and diet and so forth. And I think he'd done iridology and a number of things. So I remember sitting in the consultation room with him, because he asked me to come with him. And I remember the doctor, there's a white board that they put it on, and they slipped the scan onto the whiteboard. They switched the light on to look at the scans. So he looked at the scan and I saw him do a double take. And he was like, it's gone. And I'm like sitting there because, and so, him and we called him Brother Nelson, they were having this discussion. The cloud had gone. And I remember we left and Brother Nelson was laughing when we came out. Yes, they don't believe in it. This whole thing about using herbs and holistic medicine. So that was my first real experience. So I was hands-on. I was helping to cook the foods, prepare the foods, get the herbs. I was hands-on, but I hadn't really seen a specific case. It was just a way of life for us. We were, it was a way of life, but this was the first time I was actually dealing with a case. So fast forward, when I came to the UK, I thought, okay, what am I going to study? Because, I had young ones and I wanted them to see that, look, if mommy can go university, if mommy can live this life, you have these doors open. You can choose that. You can choose that. What would I like to do? And it came up, herbal medicine. That was, and it really was, a great journey, very science-based, very heavily science-based, clinically trained, just like your doctors are. Final exams, you have people like doctors, chemistry, maths, physics, it was all of that. And also clinical studies, pharmacology, drug-herb interaction. So very deeply science, but I was actually, quite quick on those areas. So that was okay. But then we also had the holistic approach, and that was right up my street. So I was in University of Westminster for 4 years studying, that. So coming off of the back of Rasta and living that was the next progression, to really look at modern science. And then after that, practicing, being in clinic, working alongside other doctors in a team setting, and that was really good, because again, you get to look at a patient from different angles, because when you have these meetings, these team meetings, they are picking up things from other angles. So it gives you a much more comprehensive view of this individual. So it was a very good time there, being in that clinic. And it was actually Black owned, the TLC Health Centre on Green Lanes. In fact, I saw someone today who remembers me from there. And so, but there was still this deeper spiritual side that still was saying we must go deeper. And as you know, Rasta is about going back to Africa. So about 8-9 years ago now, when I saw these flyers coming up about the Dogon people of West Africa, and of course, because I've been studying Black history and Black culture, and I've been living it, it was a way of life. So when I saw this, I was like, and they told me this is the next step. And I never looked back. From I went in there, I just went deep into the culture. And, when I went to Medita Africa with them, when, everyone would be staying at one place, I asked, can I go and study with the healers? And the priest made an exception. I could stay with the healers. I went into the bush with the healers. We made medicine. I saw how they did their spiritual practices. I was in his it's his own hospital. On his so in Togo, they recognize traditional healers. So he's government recognized, but his lineage is as of traditional healing. So I was able to see on his compound where there were people who were sick staying there, and there were people who would come every day and living on the compound and seeing how he worked and how he administered as a healer. And oh man, priceless, priceless. So it was a very different viewpoint to how we were schooled, or how this impression is given of African healing systems, African healing modalities. And of course, when you go back and you look in the history, we see from ancient Kemet, just like the Dogons who traveled across the Sahara into West Africa, we see the evidence of where there were clinical institutions set up similar to the Ministry of Health here, where you had teams of doctors. We had women that actually, who was the head court doctor, that was administrating the over these teams of professionals. But what they did was that they were using what you now know as traditional or conventional medicine and spirituality. And I don't know if I should pause there or continue.
Carry on.
Okay, so because what we found, or what you find, is that when the Greeks came in and when the Romans came in, and then you get this transition. So you get Hippocrates, who's known as the father of medicine. You get him learning from Imhotep, and remember, they were a lot closer, so they knew of the infrastructure that they had. If you look in certain of these museums, they have all the implements, the tools. They were carrying out brain surgery. There's one, when I do my courses, for example, I show the prosthetic toe, which comes from a museum, a brown black prosthetic toe. They were putting on prosthetics. They had gold braces. I mean, you're talking about high civilization that is just being reached now in Europe. So this began to balance everything, because once you have a clear idea that actually this is where you're coming from, not here, and that you had a system that is the foundation on which even the medical system today is built on. And when you're clear about that, it shows a whole different complexion on everything.
I hear that. And it's really, I can really hear the richness of the journey that you experienced. And I think, you interweave, the experience of being, Rastafarian and the medicine, being a oneness, in fact, just a oneness with it. Yeah. It's just, extended arms and branches of your being. Yeah. So I appreciate that. I think, when we look at where things are at now in terms of health, we seem to be kind of, we only have to look at, if we looked at, when we're talking about the news earlier, and we're talking about, the cost of living, and what they're talking about now with the cost of living, they're also talking about, people not being able to afford to eat, parents going hungry and their children eating, but they're not eating, and people eating, and people are eating less and less healthy. It's too expensive. These are, impacting on people's ability to, even perhaps some of people, to even see that far ahead for themselves. Yeah, because they're living in this moment where bad health is being, if you like, promoted, right? And I think, so I suppose part of my question is, in terms of like now where we're at, what do you see? You've been doing this work for a long time, so in terms of the changes, yeah, even the psychological changes to the health of our community and communities, a mass. But, what do you see as, like, what's been going on with health in your, estimation, in your experience? Is it increasing? Is it declining? What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, the first thing that came to mind was that when we look at health, and traditionally, when you talk about health, it is a holistic thing. So what does that mean? What does it look like? It means whole in the mind, body, and spirit. Now, we have a tradition of prophets and prophecies. For those who read the Bible, there are prophecies in the Bible. The Rastafarians would say certain things, different cultures say certain things. Now, this is important because when we're talking about health, we tend to want to take the paradigm of a Western view of health. Our traditions never looked at health, and that's why I could say to you that, it wasn't just about medicine, because it was part of just that was normal. It's a way of life. So that if you are not aware spiritually of where you are, that is a dis-ease.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not aware psychologically where you are, that's a disease. And if you're not aware emotionally where you are, that is a disease. So if I even start to the nearest one, emotions, if you talk about food, because we talk about health, people tend to think of nutrition, about health, but actually many of the decisions that people make around food are based on how they feel. It's emotive. So it means that there is an aspect of themselves that is unbalanced, that's not healthy. So how they feel about themselves. So when we're talking about health, you have to look at the whole human being. So where is the human being today? Well, if we look at where humanity is at, I would say we're in a very precarious place. But let's go back to where our people are at, of the African Caribbean community. Where are we at as people? I heard you speaking about the Caucasian young person who carried out
The
their
buffalo, duties.
despicable act. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. What is health and what is not health? What is unhealthy? The food crisis that you are making reference to is being brought about by powers beyond our community. So if you simply look at health in that respect, okay, and this is where the prophecy segues into it. If you simply look at health as, well, what do we do now? Then you remain in a microcosm. But actually, this is part of a longer story. And it's being aware of that. So those, so for like Rastafarians, to be honest, if there's a food shortage or those who've been living off the land, we've been growing our things because we've always been in that mindset, or people have always been in that mindset. So that's why it's more than just this moment. It's your perspective on life and not being taken away by the next shiny object, by the next superstar, because that leads you away until those who want you to bring back your attention to the moment and the situation, till they bring you back. So health, what is the situation around health? What I see is there is an awakening. This reset, this last 2 years, has brought about an awakening. I see it so much. You see much more, everybody's coming to the feed of health now, and they're doing where, for years we've been, this has been the road that we've been talking, the road of health. But you've seen people coming into now. I mean, people are taking their nutrition so much more seriously. They are taking herbs so much more seriously. They're taking planting and growing food, but they're also taking who they are more seriously. Their culture, getting back in touch with themselves. That to me is health. But sometimes it takes, as Marcus Garvey said, you're never going to know yourself until your back is against the wall. And some people, it gets to that stage when they're back, they literally, like, when they look around, because that's what the last 2 years did. It put people literally in a space where they had to shape out or ship out. And so it's an opportunity around health. What I would say, this time is a great opportunity to transcend even the prophecies of doom and gloom, even those, because you can. So like you say, Sandra has been doing growing. That is something that, and others are out there who have been growing for a while. Simple things like that. You can look to start growing your own food. But what I would definitely say is we are going to need to network as a community more. That is part of the healthy outlook. We're going to have to stop being so individualistic and start working as a community more. That definitely is part of a healthy outlook. We're going to have no choice. We're going to get to what we're going to have no choice. So if we can set up our own networks, platforms like these, and I can think of quite a few others which are serving as a place for people to come and gain knowledge and find people and get to know people. The opportunity is there now. The opportunity is there for that. So I think it's like a double-edged sword. We call it Heru Seth in the Dogon traditions. Heru is the one that constructs and builds up, and Set, who is a deity where the deity Satan comes from, is the destruction. But you need both for life. For life to exist, you need both. Yeah. So we're at a time now where, we really can elevate because all the ingredients are there.
I think you're right. I think we have these conversations, a lot of conversations between us, but that we have yet to obliterate the individual thinking mindsets. We have to really get to a point now where the collective thinking, the doing things in collective thought and practice is going to be key to our survival. Yeah, we already know that. When I was talking about this situation earlier with the shooting and this great replacement theory, we're always going to have babies. We're the most fertile on the planet. Yeah, so we're not going to have any problems with that. Yes, in fact, there is an increase in the world of childbirth. There's an increase in fertility issues amongst Black and men and women. Yes, it's happening. But most of it can be alleviated by diet and, and herbs and things like that. A lot of it can be and lifestyle choices. A lot of it's lifestyle choices. But collectively, when we talk about growing food, yeah, it's still, I think a lot of it's not quite computing for us. Yeah. And we also, perhaps because we live in these environments, a lot of us perhaps in an urban environment, haven't got a garden, haven't got a green space, what have you, then, I'd be interested in us really collectively doing that. There's so many of us in our community. I interview people every week or every 2 weeks. So I know we exist. Yeah. I just think it's time now for us to kind of really galvanize, our consciousness, because, the world of food shortages, it could get hairy. It could get tricky for some people. Yeah. And so you know, I really want us to start thinking about that. And I think you make some really good points about that, because I think, you know, our minds are all kind of all over the place, and we're always thinking about our next thing. And that's a very Western. Yeah, it's a very Western construct for us to be thinking like that. You know, we put us in our own environments, our original and indigenous environments. Collective mindset is key. And when you talked about being in Togo and being in an environment where, you know, you saw, you know, people getting healed, yeah, in a particular space. It makes sense. You know, you're seeing all of that. You're seeing all people, you know, actively healing on herbs, on medicine, from our soil, from our ground. And that recognition, you talked about the recognition of the traditional healer. I think that's a really important thing. Again, I think perhaps maybe part of it, when I say that, part of it is also because, you know, that there's that blockage around what's traditional and what's clinical, yeah, and what's recognized and what's not recognized. You know, it was in the last few years that they were really trying to outlaw homeopathy, yeah, as a huge thing. And I remember when I really got into homeopathy around 2007, and my eldest son, who's 22 now, he had well, I diagnosed him with asthma, actually, and it didn't take much to work out what I needed to do for that. You know, there was some black seed oil, some ipiac, yeah, some, you know, put a few things together. 2 weeks later, gone forever, yeah. And my children know that about me, you know, like, gosh, during this time when we had all of this pandemic, you know what, my children couldn't even cough and sneeze.
Right.
Who coughed? I was like the cough police. Who coughed? Who sneezed? I'm like that now. I'm always like, I'm like, I'm running to them when they sneeze or they sneeze. I won't even allow hay fever in my house. Yeah.
That's right.
And you have to be like that. You have to be. And I think that, you know,
Definitely.
my children have learned, you know, now they know how to heal each other, which is really lovely. That's the really beautiful part about it. My eldest one, gosh, if he makes a concoction, yeah, for his brothers, let's say I'm out, I've got something that I need to do, and his brothers get unwell or something, my gosh, he goes in.
He knows what to
Yeah.
go in. That's right.
He
That's it.
goes in.
And,
He
and
takes
it
everything out. And those children, like,
definitely.
look, they got no chance. By the next day, bang, they are well. Yeah, because I don't, you know, we don't engage in ill. Yeah, if we can help it. Obviously, there's some things outside of control. And as we
That's
get
right.
older, our bodies change and these kinds of things. And like, I was going for a checkup the other day, and I was talking to my younger children about, you know, going for checkups and the things that mums have, you know, have to do as my body gets older. Because they were like, what? You're going for a checkup, mum? Why? Are you okay? You know, like, it's okay. Mom's okay.
Right.
But I want to know internally that some things are okay, and make sure I just check on a few things. Yeah. Or if there's a little something there, I just need to check on those things. And I'm a person, I would just go and check on it and then not even take anything that they give me. I always know what it is before I go. I've always trained myself to know what it is before I go, get some confirmation if needs be,
necessary.
and then just come back and
Do what you got to do.
Yeah. I'm just like, okay, you know, I will always tell them. I always go to the doctors, and if I go to the doctors at all, I will always go there and tell them it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. They will have to pull out their books in front of me because I already know. Yeah, and they're used to me now. My, you know, they're very used to me. The doctor's surgery, they just let me be. Yeah, I don't have to fight them, which is good, and I don't even have to fight them for this. Yeah, one of my children the other day hurt themselves. I had to go down to A&E. They hurt their foot. And, you know, I knew it was going to be a thing. I hadn't been to the hospital for ages, and I had to just, you know, possibly get a scan. It was all right in the end. But they were concerned about this scan. And it was like, you know, and I said to them, you know, they said, oh, have they had this? Have they had these, you know, these, yeah, have they had them? You know, they're up to date. I said, I just looked them straight in the eye. I said, no. I said, no, by choice. Yeah. You know, it's all in how, because mums ask me that all the time. You know what about this and after that, and when the baby's born? Look them dead in the eye, you know, and say by choice. Yeah. And you know, then that shakes them, because you're completely unwavering. It's when you're unwavering with it. Yeah. If you go in there with, well, they've got you. So,
right.
you know, that's been, and my children have observed that over time. So they're so staunch themselves now. Yeah. I mean, they're taking over now. So I think it's really, and that's beautiful, even down to the fact that they're generationally, you know, I can see that, you know, I won't have to worry about them health wise when I'm gone. Yeah, it's the great beyond.
Yeah.
I won't have to worry about that. They are not taking no medicine. They are not taking this. They're not on it. They're not on it. All three of them are not on it, which I'm like, I'm blessed. Even a 7-year-old he's not on it. So, you know, I wanted to kind of look a bit about, you know, you talked about Burkina Faso and so tell us about working with the Dogon people and what that was like for you, because Burkina Faso is a very beautiful, it's a very mysterious and beautiful space. You always hear, I've not been as yet, though I have touched the soil. I've been on the soil of our motherland, of course, but Burkina Faso is always it's always a place in my heart, simply because of the works of, you know, Sobonfu Some, Maladoma Some, their works and their teachings have come out of some of that as well. So they always, you know, they always touch my spirit on that level. So tell us a little bit about what that was like for you, working with the Dogon people.
Yeah, so that took everything, and I just want to acknowledge first of all that you were saying about the children, because that's where it has to start, in the home. They have to see you and then model from you, you know. So that is so key. It starts in the family and then you extend out. So that is just so key. But yeah, so you know, first of all, I have to say that I'm gonna acknowledge the Nabalamusa Moran Denibeg. He's the high priest who was given that mission to bring the initiation out into the West. So that was by the kings and the temples, because there's a whole temple system which is still in place, which traces back to Kemet. And so by going into the initiation and learning, I had spent, like I said, I just came out of this system and went into natural livity. So I was already connected to, and here I also have to acknowledge, you know, the nature, which is the neter, the plants, and I'm going to acknowledge the plant kingdom in its non-physical aspect, because it is a kingdom that has a non-physical sentient side to it. It is a conscious living kingdom, such as is the earth. So when you're talking about African spirituality and these traditions, the earth is recognized as a deity in itself. And the universe, those planets and stars that are in the universe, we understand that there is a communication that is happening between this planet and those planets. So when people look out, they see the heavens. But if you go on the star or on the moon or on a planet and you look back at Earth, you will see that Earth is in the heavens. We are in the heavens. And so the Dogons are fully aware of this whole system, that's astrological system. And we understand, because our very concept of time comes from the movement of the earth, and in this system, the movement of a star called the sun. So even our very concept of time comes about by the interwoven dynamics, the interplay between stars and this planet.
The interconnectedness, yeah.
That interconnectedness, that dialogue, we call it the dialogue. Yeah, the Biowali and Yedo, there's a dialogue that is going on between all of these planets. So when you begin to speak about ancient African wisdom, we start there. We start from the deities that brought into being this physical existence that we know. And from that Genesis, gene of Isis, gene of Aishat, our deities are strewn throughout this this world. They're strewn, and the ancient civilization, our ancestors had them as the foundation. So when we go into places like, and you go into the tradition like Burkina Faso, Togo, we went to Benin, which also has the Vodun temples, and prior to that I was in places like Senegal and Gambia and Ghana, but certainly around the Dogomba, around Burkina Faso, Togo, Benin, there's this, it's clear where things begin and where they end. Because if there's any discourse, if there's any guidance, you go back to the deities, or you go back to, or you go forward to the ancestors. So they are at the beginning, they're at the end, and everything comes in between. So anything that you do, so that's why I'm saying health is an aspect, you know, it's an aspect. So you know, you have the temples, but let me go back to the initiation, because what initiation does. Now, remember, I left Babylon, so I had done the whole thing. I totally disconnected. And when I'm talking about disconnecting, you know, I'm talking about disconnecting from economics. How was I going to eat? How was I going to survive? I didn't know. From a way of life that I'd grown up hearing, I literally just left, and I put my life in the hands of that divine world, and they guided every step of the way. Every step of the way, till at this point where I'm here now, I can see why that journey that I took has actually put me in the position where the world is now. I'm actually in a position to deal with certain things because of that journey. They put me there. And so that is our ancestral wisdom. They understand that they come first. And so in the initiation, what they do is, we call it breaking the monuments, because there's many things. So remember, I've been in Rasta for many years, and I thought I pretty much was clued up. You know, I'd read all the books, I'd done everything, I'd lived it. And when I went into initiation, that was a whole nother level, because now you were getting the teachings from out of the temples of Kemet. Do you understand how powerful that is? Let me just really put this in perspective. What the Dogons have been able to do is to keep the knowledge, the science that was in Kemet at the time. They took it across, because they were the ones who were given that, one of the ones. They took it and kept it in secret, which is why when the Europeans found them, they were astounded at their knowledge. It was the knowledge of the Kemetan calendar, which is what we still use. We use a different calendar to what's currently being used. And so they were keeping this ancient, they speak in the what they call the dead language, the hieroglyphs, which we call the Medu. That it's still, that's what the priests speak, that's what they've taught us. Now, this wasn't in a European school, it wasn't in an institution, it wasn't through uni. No, it was in the initiation. So what they are bringing back is wisdom that our ancestors had over 2,000, because the Job will tell you 100,000 years, they can trace their lineage back to where they go back. But people understand about Kemet. And so we're talking about knowledge coming out of Kemet that they have kept, that you begin to learn. And what that does, it breaks the monuments. You do not realize how many things you've built up from this programming, not even realizing. And when it comes in, it's like a scythe. And when it begins to break it, you're like, okay, it's like peels coming off of you, and you're growing and you're evolving as a being. So my experience with the initiation has been to chip away at the 2,000-year-old programming that was put in by the Greco-Roman system that is still being continued today, and opened me up even deeper to the things that people see as almost second hand, you know. So the planting of food and being close to the earth, people kind of, you know, they'd rather be dressed very smart going out to, you know, these places, or being seen in the latest place, or drinking, you know. That's where that illusory life, that, you know, even some of the people who live it will tell you, you know, they've got money, they've got this, they've got that, but they don't have real friendship, they don't have real caring. You know, there are certain things that are missing. There's a hole in their life. So when you go into the initiation, it makes you deal with you. It's all about you. Because once you deal with you, then whoever you are can begin to relate to the person in truth, to that next person. So it is about you. Why have you come into this world? What is your life here for? Is your life here to come and from 5 years old get schooled in a system for 10, 11, how many years, then come out of that system and then go and work for that system until you're no good to anyone else, given the best years of your life? Is that why you came on this planet? That's why I say again, when we're looking at health, it's a healthy perspective. That's the first thing. You've got to have a healthy view of life. And what they did by extracting me out of the matrix, by extracting me out of the system, it allowed me to be able to see more clearly. Because what they do in the initiation, they say this. It's like Set, who is the deity Set, and who they call Satan. He rules this kingdom that we're in now. And he kills your mother and father. And then after he kills your mother and father, what he then does is feed you. So how do we translate that into here and now? Well, we know what colonialization was and what it did to our ancestors. And then it gave us things that we were allowed to have and fed us. And when they feed you, they then say, what your mother and father knew and were doing was wrong. And it had no value. It was dark. It was evil. So these are the people who murdered them, but then they are the ones who then say, so, and this is the whole thing about the Setian principle. So what the individual must then do is to come off that breast milk. Come off of that milk.
The dependence.
Marcus Garvey said it. Marcus Garvey told us you have to learn to be independent off of that system. Because as long as it feeds you, you are beholden to it. And as long as it feeds you, you are not in a position to look critically or look at it of independent thought. As long as it feeds you, you have to acquiesce. So you cannot be of independent thought and mind. You can't. You can be of independent thought and mind and then make a decision when you go in and when you go out. But that's you making the decision. Just like you said, you went to the doctor because of this. You made a conscious decision, but being fully aware of why you're making this decision. And so that is where many of our people are caught at the moment. The same system that, destroyed our system and our culture is the one that is feeding us now.
Yeah.
And so we're caught in that situation. And what I'm saying was this reset could have, for those who came to that place, could have been that time to extract yourself, even to some degree, to extract yourself and give yourself a chance to see the matrix. Our sister wrote this fantastic thing that was put into film. She told us what was coming. She told us about the matrix. And there were those who were outside the matrix and those who were in it, who was buying the illusion. This was our sister who wrote this. So when you talk about health, that's why I would kind of keep going. When you talk about health, this is what we're talking about. Healthy mind. How are you perceiving the world around you? Through whose lens are you perceiving the world? That has everything to do with the mindset, a healthy mind. Everything, a healthy spirit. So these are part of the things that being in the initiation has enabled me. And I have to go a step further because the temples actually has come for humanity. Because here's the thing. Either we have to leave this planet or they have to leave the planet. Because we say like the same you right. So if that's not going to happen, we have to find a way that we can learn to coexist, because that cannot keep happening. Somebody cannot keep going in and continually afflicting our community. So we are gonna have to figure this out. We're gonna have to do it, or else are they coming off the planet? There is less Europeans on the planet than there are people of color. That might be some of the deep fear that they realize. It might be that those who are of that thinking, you know, I can't remember, you gave a name for them. Who
The great replacement theorists, yeah,
right,
those ones.
But they tell you they are fearing not being here anymore, but that's their fear, and so they act in a violent way. That state of a human being is at a very low state in terms of humanity.
Yeah,
That
and just
means that
low
humanity
vibrational
needs to be
beings,
raised.
totally low vibration.
Totally, which means that one way or the other, either that vibration has to be raised, or they're not on the planet. What's going to happen? That's where we're at. So if their vibration is going to be raised, they then have to be schooled and taught. It might be their own people that have been schooled and taught, and then go back and teach them. So this is a point where humanity is going to have to come to grips. Because hear this as well. Our traditions didn't have all good in it either, right? We gonna all have to come to that place of reality. How do we move forward as human beings? And we can see so many things are happening. So many things are happening. So that's what I would say. The core things of the there's so many aspects, but I would say the initiation had helped to evolve me as a human being, as an individual, and also to be able to understand more how to relate to my community first, but then by extension human beings, because you actually see the flaws, the weaknesses, and where they are, like you said, in terms of you see them for where they are. So what happens? Do you take them off the face of the planet, or do you have to educate? What happens? What do we do next? Because something has to be done.
Well, this is, I mean, it is, you know, there's layers of this reset energy. There's absolute layers to it. We know what happened in the last couple of years. We also, you know, there's conversations right now for the new variant that's coming. Yeah. And that, you know, that's coming out of this though. Yeah. So anyone who's been involved in that, well, I can't, you know, you're going to have to really boost your immune system now, because it's about to get really interesting. Yeah. You know, it's only, and I remember, you know, hearing a lot of things at the beginning of this whole experience, where, you know, companies, there was a company that was looking to replace its staff in the next 3 to 5 years, because they didn't expect those staff to actually live beyond that time. Yeah. So it is going to get very interesting, and there is an energetic reset. We know that we've seen the whole thing with George Floyd. We've seen, you know, these different situations occurring, these shootings occurring, and this conversation, you know, they're not even, the thing about these people is that they don't even know how to keep it quiet anymore. It's, remember, they're the ones who created the social media, so they can't hide in the same way anymore. So even if this great replacement theory has been, you know, in the background, you know, in a secret compartment in their minds for some time, it's coming out. And so energetically, there's going to be a shift. Yeah. And it's an opportunity for us and our community to raise our vibration and recognize, you know what, if we're going to replace them, what we're going to replace them with. Yeah. So that's the first thing. You don't just be, you know, replacing them by your body. You replace them with you know, we are the great think tank. Yeah. We, you know, the first, the last, everything. Yeah. So it's about resetting ourselves and being ready for that. Yeah. Their fears are always going to be their fears. They've had fears since they, you know, tried to conquer us for many, many years. Yeah. From the time they went into Kemet, you know, the whole thing with the Greeks, they have always had this, you know, innate fear,
insecurity.
Yeah, and now you've got, you know, when I look at this and I say to myself, why, this boy is 18 years old, you haven't even lived yet. Yeah, what could you possibly know unless you're completely conditioned? Yeah, and your parents will have something to do with that one. Yeah. What could you possibly know about life? Yeah, they're getting scared because let's face it, you've got their people wanting our lips, our bottom, our thighs, and looking for their brown babies. Yeah, if they don't mix in with us, they would have died out already. I remember coming across information many years ago that was, they need to mix in with us every 4 generations for them to stay here. Yeah,
I
if
think
they
that
don't
was
mix
actually
in
on the Time magazine. I think it was Time magazine. They wrote an article because they had already seen that
every
the
4
European
generations,
race
every
was
4
in
generations.
recession. Yeah.
Yeah, because
So
they're the
yeah,
recessive gene. If they do not mix in with us, they won't survive. Yeah. So we'll see it. We'll see in different elites. Yeah. When you think about the elites, that people they're making it look like, even when people have small families now, really small families, and they're like, oh, one child and all this kind of thing else. A lot of it is to, they're trying to mask their infertility, yeah, with elitism, yeah, and making it look like, well, we're overpopulating the planet, and we're not being responsible. If we have to understand that from an agricultural point of view, it's very responsible to have more children. Yeah, that's what we did. Yeah, our children are our wealth. Yeah, our children used to tend to the land and tend to this and tend to that. Now our children are becoming a more convenient space purpose for having them. But there was a time when we were having children because it made sense. Yeah, to have that amount of children and spread our talents and our conversations and our family conversations and our hierarchy and the levels in which we grow and gravitate as beings and young people inside of those communities. When you look at other homes and other settings, across the waters, these children are just happy beings. They're happy, innocent young beings playing. They may have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 siblings. It's normal. Yeah. So when we're having our one child, I always get worried when I see, one child. Yeah, I do. I get worried. And my eldest one was an only child for 10 years. And I was like, I'm worried. Yeah. Because we have to understand that this is not often natural for our children. Yeah. And it often cultivates, unless they've got, community around them and things like that, it does happen. And if you can cultivate, community or family around them. But again, there's that whole death of the extended family now. Yeah, in the art, the infrastructure that's happening, people are not really connecting with their grandchildren and beyond. But it always concerns me when I see this. I question how many siblings this same boy. I wonder how many siblings he's actually got. Yeah, and and I ask myself, okay, what's going on in his structure? And so often when you find children who are insulated like that, often not by any fault of the parents, it just happen to be, they feel, they're insulated in that way and isolated in that way by default of being an only child, it can create, an imbalance for them. Yeah. And it can create particular wiring that they wouldn't have had there been more community, more family, more, more and more. Yeah. So I'm all for endorsing us having more children. Yeah. We always find a way. Yeah. We always find a way. And I think our reasons for having children are very different. A lot of people say, well, can we afford it? Can we not? This and the other. We know about sharing. We're genetically built for that. Yeah. When we look at our, even down to the fact that when the great invaders came into our environments, what did we do? We end up sharing. Yeah. Sharing too much. Even now we're sharing too much. Yeah. Back home. Yeah. Our resources, and they're raping our lands. Yeah. Sharing is a beautiful thing, but it's also, we have to have the balance of it not being at our detriment. Yeah. And we've now, now looking at, okay, well, what does this reset really mean? And if it does mean we're replacing them, what we're going to replace them with? Yeah. I think it's a great discussion in our community, actually. I'm like, okay, So they think we're going to replace us, because some of us didn't even know that we had that much impact. Yeah, we have so much impact that you got this boy's got a 180-page document manifesto. That takes some time. You really thought about that. And when you think about how the mindset of our young people are being formed in this society, it's very, very difficult for them to find a balance and the traditional approaches and the harmonious functionality. Yeah, it takes something. It really takes something. It takes a lot of work and cultivation of the mind to get our children on that page in this society where, you know, you've got trauma porn. Yeah, watch this. This has happened. Yeah, and it's instantly to your phone. It's very dangerous. And so when I look at that reset, it's a question. It's a real debate, really. Okay, you know, if they're scared of us, which we know they've always been scared of us, it's kind of like, you know, and I, you know, looked at that when I was quite young. I was like, wow, you know what? They're just, you know, what are they really scared of? You know, and when you look at their fears, you know, what are we going to do with those fears? How are we going to empower ourselves with their fears? Yeah, we have to understand and understand that science. So yeah, I'm interested in what our cultivation of our replacement is going to look like. Like, if we are now aware that there's a fear that we will replace him. There's always been a fear of the black man and being with the black woman or the white woman and all of these kinds of things and different variables. But now they've got the next level is they really think we're going to replace them. And we need to know that fear is actually kind of empowering. Yeah, it's empowering for us. Yeah, if that's what they think, then we must rise to the occasion. Yeah. I'm all for us rising out here. I'm just gonna hail out some people in the chat, and I'm also gonna say if anyone wants to come in, because I know you've got some real fans in the chat, you know, sis. I know that some of these people are new and to the space that I've seen, so I know that they are greatest fans in the chat. So if you do want to come in, I put it in the chat already. If you do want to come in and if you've had an experience with our sister Kandake, or you would like to ask her a question, feel free to come in on the conversation as well. And I will put your camera on and make sure I can hear you. If I don't see your camera on, I can't have you come in because it won't actually let you in unless you've got a camera on. So if you want to come in on the conversation, it's up there. I'll put it in the chat again shortly. But if that's just for you to know. I want to hail up a couple of people in the chat as well. And I'm glad our sister mentioned this. Kushti Cosmetics mentioned that she's been trying to get in. She's not been getting the actual notifications. You know, we know what it's like. Look how many subscribers that we've got, right? And look how many people may be even watching this. People are not getting the notifications. It's quite clear people are not getting the notifications because, you know, algorithms and all those kind of wonderful things. So, you know, we move, make sure that, you know, you get involved in the conversation. Yeah, you know, just make sure, you know, we know it's on a Thursday, so just check out, you know, just check to see what's coming. Right, so we've got some people in the chat here, and we've got Go Grow with Love, Kushti Cosmetics. Some of my messages have disappeared, and I don't know what's going on over here. But yes, I want to kind of, I suppose I want to move on slightly because you, in your bio, we talked about your second book, but I didn't, you know, I wanted to know about your first book before we get onto your second book. So tell us about that.
Okay, the first book actually, it was during the COVID. I put a book together that in the early days so that, you know, we could look at herbs that you could take, steam, things that you could use to steam. So I had that out then. I had videos out at the time. I actually was also doing a series of webinars, which I'd mentioned, and that is what segued into the ICU documentary. So it was at the time when the community was actually, you know, what do we do? And I was sitting on all of this stuff, and I was like, well, this is what you can do. So, you know, and of course there were others out there who were active in, you know, in the field of psychology, in the field of business, and, you know, it was homeopaths, you know, different people who were out there working during that time. And yeah, so that was when that first book came together. It was really as a response to put something out there that people could use.
So what was the book called?
A holistic approach to herbal to dealing with COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so now your second book, tell us about your second book.
Yeah, so that one I've been writing for a while, and then when I was like, when's the book coming? But yeah, that's on female health and well-being, but it's a holistic approach, and I've probably been doing it for about 5-6 years now. So that was the one that I was really writing, you know. And so what I realized, because from what I understand, those who've written book, you can kind of get caught up in the book and you're trying to do everything. So I'm really going to small it down and just get something small out, just so that we can get something out there. So, you know, it's really looking at the female journey from menarche, when you first bleed, to menopause, when you last bleed. And the different situations that you have in between, you know, be it knowing your body. You know, so when I do the female health course, about understanding your body, you'd be surprised. You know, I'm doing one in a school, you know, like today I was at a school doing women's health course, and trust me, we think we know, but we don't know. There's so much we don't know. So really just understand anatomically and physically. And then the different things, maybe heavy bleeding, painful periods, fibroids, endometriosis, you know, stress, how it affects us, and the nutrition and the herbs and the holistic approach and traditional perspective. So it was taking that journey from, you know, that time when we start menstruating to when we finish, and the different things that can come up and how we can use a holistic approach. So that's the book. It's there. It's probably about 70-80% done, but you know, it's just getting to that next level, I guess. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit. So you did the ICU documentary and it sold out.
Yes,
is that right? So tell us about, how did that go? We were I'm really pleased with you. I couldn't make it because the day before we had the soft launch for my boy and I was exhausted, so I did message you, but I did want to follow up. So when our sister Sandra Salazar had a dream that you'd be on the show, I was like, yes girl, I'm in. Call me with your dreams, okay? DM me with your dreams as well, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, bless up. So yeah, it sold out. We were able to put that documentary, which was like 2 years. We spoke about it when we were here, Des and I. It's been 2 years in the making, and we wanted to get it out to the community, and it was like, we did it. You know, we had a team meet just a couple of days ago, you know, just to catch up after that. And you know, it was good. There's still a way to go. There's still things to be done. Because, you know, it's good highlighting certain things, and I think this is one of the reasons why it won a lot of rewards, and you probably haven't seen it that way, where we have UK people speaking about their experiences in that way. Usually it all comes from America. That's the reality. It all comes from America. So yeah, it was a different perspective, it was a new way. So we've actually got 2 other showings as well.
Oh wow.
There's going to be one next Sunday, or the 20-something, which is the Sunday, maybe not this Sunday, but next Sunday, and then one on the following Wednesday. Now these are individuals that are showing these, so actually I think you can probably go on to the Eventbrite and look up for the ICU documentary. So Sister Charmaine from Black History Studies and husband, they're going to be showing it. I think it's next Wednesday.
Queen's in the building.
Wednesday.
Yes, Queen.
Bless.
I was going to call you today, you know, about my sunflower. I was actually going to call you about my sunflower. I'm going to send you a picture of So wait for me, Sandra. Give me a second. So we're so you've got another showing. Tell us about, you've got another showing when?
So there's one, I think not this Sunday, next Sunday, but there's somebody else has put it on, because you know, they're promoting it. So I actually haven't got all the details. But if you go on to unfiltered.london, you should be able to see that. So unfiltered.london, that's the company that's run by Des and Samuel, and the ICU project is the one that we've been working on. So you should be able to see details there, but you can also go onto Eventbrite and look it up, and you'll see. I mean, actually, one of the tickets are really low at the minute. I think there's an early one for like £6.50 or something like that, you know. So, you know, definitely worth coming to see the documentary. And afterwards, you know, we have a discussion in the community, you know, how do we move forward, you know, etc., etc. So I would definitely say, if you can, have a look on Eventbrite or go on to unfiltered.london. You should be able to find those details there of those two showings.
Excellent.
I think one of the Lexi, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so unfiltered.london. Yes.
Yes, that's the one.
Okay. Greetings, sister. You manifested your dreams, you sweetness.
I'll check in and say hi. How can I not?
How you doing, son?
I'm good. I was like, well, Sister Kandake is going to be on tonight. Right, I have to tune in.
Oh, bless. Nice, good to see you, sis. I was actually going to give you a shout as well, because I was talking to Paula and she was telling me some of the things that was going on. So like, I've got to shout her, and you know, so yeah, we've got to catch up. Definitely need to catch up.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so have you got any questions or anything you want to say, or you just want to hail her up? Let me know.
Come on, Sandra.
I have to say, Sister Kandake, I know she hates when I say things like that, but Sister Kandake is one of the main reasons to why I became a horticulturist. You know this, and I tell everyone the same thing. I tell everyone, Sister Kandake, Sister Paulette, you have taught me so much. You have been on a journey with me, a journey of womanhood, a journey of sisterhood, a journey of motherhood, you know. And I just have to give you a shout and say thank you for all the wonderful work that you do, all the wonderful work that you've done for us, all the wonderful work that you continue to do, and all the wisdom and knowledge that you share. Because what you're seeing here is a little tiny bit of the knowledge that Sister Kandake has to share.
No doubt. Take
the course. I've taken that course about 3 times.
Really? Oh, wow.
There's so much information, the Women's Health course, so much information. So yeah, thank you.
And I was going to say that, you know, the way Sandra is blossoming. So when I get a chance to see, I didn't even know you was on Sister Much, I'd have tuned in. But when I do, and it is about us, and you're doing it as well, Sister Much, passing that torch and allowing somebody else's light to shine, and then passing that torch. And so everybody becomes a torch. So we become one beam, laser beam, start making this change, you know, because we've got so much inside of us, you know. So I just spoke about the dream. There's so many things that we have. Once we can get these lights becoming, you know, lighting up and doing it's a force to be reckoned with. And this is where we are. This is where we are in time and space. It's angels like, you know, these sisters here to rise and to take up their stance in this earth. And I hope also that the young ones that are coming up and seeing these positive images, you know, of elder women, middle-aged women, younger women, and seeing, yes, that I can become, that I can do this, that they're being inspired, because that's what we need to bring the young, because they're the strong ones. And I saw an image of a talk yesterday of a young woman who was talking in Parliament, and I was absolutely felt, yes, sis. I don't know if you saw that, where she was talking about how Britain is seeing, you know, Black people as second-class citizens, but she had a cloth over her shoulder. She had a head wrapped, and she was talking. She's an MP. I can't remember. Is it Peckham? She's representing one of those. These are the women that we need to. And when they're speaking their truth, they're saying it absolutely clear. They're absolutely clear about what they're saying. There is no disputing what they're saying, and they are being heard and impacted. Of course, we want our brothers too, but it's these lights that will help those lights to come, and this is the time. That's the change that we're talking about.
I feel you. I feel that, and I appreciate that, because you know us, you know, with the times that we're in, we also find that we, you know, that again, about that disconnect, and a lot of us are doing some wonderful things, and when you see you put us all together. Now it's a case of, okay, we're together on social media. It's about getting in the room now, ladies. It's about getting in the room. Yeah. Get in the room with each other and start building in those kinds of ways. And that's really, really important. So I really appreciate the conversation around that, because, I came across your work, Sandra, recently, and went down to see your beautiful space. And she knows that if I have another child, I'm having the baby right there. So I've already got my outdoor baby.
You've got the ready to go.
Ready to go. I got my space. No, my next one, if I have the next one, it's outdoors. Yeah, it's outdoors. So with that, so yeah, outdoors in nature. So she knows I've got I've got my birthing space now, and so it's a case of working with that. But I think we're learning with each other, we're cultivating, and I think that we're learning to. I think the times that we're in as well, even during these pandemic times, I think it's also. I personally have come across some wonderful human beings during this time. Actually, yeah, I really have some bona fide women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I might have known a few women, some women before that, of course, and it'd be like WhatsApp and etc. But I think it's also about the intention. Yeah, I think it's about knowing that we co-create. Yeah, and that we, we're women on a mission. Yeah, and women with purpose. Yeah, and so I think those are. We've learned in that time. If anything, a lot of us have learned. I certainly have. I've learned, the power of really cultivating, because you have to work quite hard. You have to work harder to connect when you've only met each other on social media. So that when you do come together, it's actually quite rich. It's actually I found so. I don't know how it was being for you, but I found it so.
Absolutely. We had fun.
So all I'm saying is I just want to just hail you up, Sandra. Thank you so much for coming on, and I will be calling you about my sunflower.
Right.
Where is it? Yeah, she's not happy right now. One of my babies is not happy. Yeah, so I'm like, okay, what's wrong, mama? So I will be messaging you on. Okay.
So I love how the locks is flowing, man. It's flowing,
girl. Come on now. Yes, queen. Yes, queen.
Yeah, we'll talk soon, sis.
All right,
definitely. All right,
thank you so much, beautiful. Thank you. If anyone else wants to come in, you're welcome to come in on the conversation. That's lovely. Yeah, it's lovely to connect with you, Sandra. And it's her doing. She just messaged me randomly and said, I had a dream that she came on. I said, and I thought, yeah, the timing is perfect, because we just done the ICU conversation and follow up. So I was like, I'm all about synchronicity, I'm all about that. I live by synchronicity. Yeah. So I was like,
that's just flowing. Okay. So we give thanks.
So tell us, so what is next for you as we sort of come to a bit of a close in terms of that? So what's next for you? What's coming up?
Okay, so I am still doing my health courses. So I've been doing those. We're looking to do the aftermath, so there is that. But I'm also going to be working with MediaNet TV to do some a health series. So that's what we're in the process of doing now, looking at holistic health and doing a health series. So that's the next thing that we've got in the pipeline to come up. So we're hoping by end of summer we should start to have some of those up and out. But yeah, we're still doing the holistic health courses. You can go to instrumentalhealth.co.uk. So let me say this. So even when you were speaking about media just now, it's only since COVID that I've actually come onto social media like this.
Me too. Me too, baby. Right. I'm a person. So, you would have never seen me. You would have never seen me, boy. I don't do social media.
And and I do know about the to get the LinkedIn and to get me on the Facebook, and I'm getting there. You see, my my reasoning happens with the non-physical. I'm a very, I'm very strong there, communing with the plants, communicating the spiritual work, working on the health thing. And so having to do the whole social media, it's a different world that you have to be stepping in. So a lot of people still say, look, you need to be out there some more. That will come.
Naturally.
So yeah, it will come. So we're working on putting the social media out there, but instrumentalhealth.co.uk is the website. I do operate out of a place called the Tree of Eternal Life on West Green Road, where they have a health store there. And that's West Green Road, Tottenham, London. And I have products in there, and I also do consultations. We have a consultation room. So 079-497-13639. I'll just throw that out there if you want to get in contact, because my social media isn't quite up yet, because I'm still healing and I'm dealing with the herbs, and I'm happy in my world, but I'm stepping out. I'm coming.
Social media, we have to understand, social media is it's a job in itself. Yeah, it's a job in itself. I could get someone to do all the admin on that one. I don't know. That's it. When you're used to working with nature,
exactly.
Social media is so secondary. Yeah. As in the world of birth and childbirth, it's like my work is about being connected with people and others. It has nothing to do with social media, although social media plays a part. Yeah,
because then you're connecting to others, but because you're doing it through this medium, and it's good, it has its place, because there's going to be people who've seen you. So that's what I'm saying. I'm growing. That's the area I'm growing in, and I'm learning. So if there's anyone there who want to assist in social media, helping me get on social media, let me know. Okay.
Yeah, we all
I'm doing it.
Who are naturalites out here. We need an administrator. Okay. Yeah.
We're getting there.
Don't worry, it's coming. It's coming. So I want to put some things inside of this. So where we can tell me again, and I'll pop it up. So we've got Unfiltered London, but what else have we? You've got and where did you say you had the website? Did you have another site? Did you tell me?
Right. So that's not my site, because that's what we do. We're working with different people in the community. So working with Des and Samuel, their company is unfiltered.london. So I'm giving you their information, because that's where you can go and get info about ICU documentary. I'm going to be working.
Where you can get your stuff, your work.
Yeah.
Where can we get your book? Where can we get your?
So instrumentalhealth.co.uk should still be on. So it's on that website. You can download it as an ebook. Yeah, instrumentalhealth.co.uk. So that's that's my website. I will be working on it to do some more, but it's there. And then, like I told you, I'll be working with Media Net TV as well, to do these series, this health series. So it's about working with people, really going in the documentary, working, when I was working at the TLC Health Center with all those doctors and osteopaths, and working as a team, you get to see people's strengths, you get to learn. It's just that's how you grow. That is really how you grow to the next level, by working with people. So we give thanks, and I want to really hail out all those people who are in the community who aren't looking any praise. They're just working to help the youth, to help people, sisters, brothers. They just do the work. They just do the work. So we really want to acknowledge those who've just been doing the work. So we just more strength to you, and thank you for the work that you do out there. And because I've been helped by people as well, so if no one's out there doing the work, what happens? So yeah, just give thanks for all of those who are doing the work without looking for the glitz and the glamour and the lights, just doing the work. Yeah, acknowledge them.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Oh no, it's .co.uk, instrumentalhealth.co.uk.
Good. Okay, I'll edit that. Right. Okay, I'll edit that now. So what can we expect going forward? Let's say in the next, 5 years. Because I'm ready to be your apprentice. You know that, right? I'm
I'm sure there's quite a lot I can learn from you. I heard you say you do the homeopathy, you know, so I'm sure there's, you know, even on my classes, Sandra would tell you, the participants actually become teachers because everybody's got something that they're bringing from life. So they don't know. I'm sitting there gleaning all of this knowledge. A lot of the knowledge I'm gleaning from them as well. So I'm sharing, and so it's about that. It's about that, you know. So yeah, you know, there's a couple other companies and organizations that I'm going to be working with as well. I work with a national organization at the moment, delivering health workshop to, like today, like I said, I was dealing with parents in school. So there is that. But one of my key areas that, you know, I really have a vision to make an impact is in the area of sickle cell. So definitely health and well-being, but that's something I'm working with. And, you know, yeah, that's an area that I am going to be moving forward with to see what can be done and to do things in that area. That, you know, it's in the process, and I'm just going to put that out there. So in the next few years, that's one area of health that, you know, I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of seeing, you know, like, yeah, when you see, you know, something, they can fly people to the moon, they can go to Mars, they can do this and they can do that. And so, you know, they can think for cystic fibrosis and all of these other chronic diseases. And, you know, something like sickle cell, how many times do our people have to keep going through these kind of things? So that's something dear to my heart, and there's reasons for that. So it really is more about growing and growing more in this space as a healer, growing and learning more, and learning from others more. And, you know, they may say miracles, creating miracles, that's how they see it, but really making real change. That's what I'm here to do, to make the change, changing the mindset, changing, you know, dis-ease into ease, you know, so, and using everything, the modern scientific practices, the ancient scientific practices, and making those change. That's what we're looking to do in the next 5 years.
I do have one question though, because you know, holistic feminine health is clearly an area that's you're working in. What do you find? I don't know. It may have been the same over the course of time. It might be the same ailments, the same concerns. But have you found that there's a difference in what people are coming to you for, male and female, actually, but what people are coming to you for in terms of their health concerns? Do you think that there is a rise in certain ailments and a decrease in certain ailments from your experience?
I think the ones that are the mainstays are things like high blood pressure and diabetes. I mean, they're there, aren't they? Fibroids, of course, for women has always been this one that they've been struggling with, fibroids. Things like, you know, period pains, you know, some women just want it to stop. Heavy bleeding, actually, you know, I've had quite a few women who, you know, just leaving from home to work and putting on layers of protection by the time they get to work, you know, socially embarrassed, you know, that can be a huge thing in a woman's life. For someone that's like, what? But actually, that's a huge thing. She, at those times a month, her life becomes so restricted. So that actually, so those kind, in terms of women, certainly the fibroids, of course, cancer has been one of those that has been, you know, afflicting our community. Yeah. And yeah, so, you know, there was a time lupus was on the rise. That was something that was being seen quite a lot in the community. I know certainly when I was in Jamaica, that was really rising. But the thing is, it you know, yeah.
What about in men? Have you found it's changed? Is there an increase or decrease in particular ailments in men?
What with the men, of course, there's prostate issues, but I find blood pressure and diabetes. The men are equally I mean, I get more women clients because women will come forward more, so there's a
Yeah,
ratio of
they're more likely to come forward with their health
they,
concerns. Sure, true.
they do, you know. But with the men, if it's not prostate, it does tend to be around the diabetes, high blood pressure. Some might be arthritic, but not so much. The women tend to, what I've seen, more arthritic, fibromyalgia, you know, those chronic ongoing things. But what you see, I think across the board, is maybe not in everything, but certainly in quite a few, is that there is usually some ongoing situations that haven't been fully dealt with and explored. And sometimes what I will do is point them on to, you know, other people in the community who may work specifically in psychotherapy or specifically in counseling, rape crisis units, those kinds of, you know, those areas. And of course, there are things that have happened to people, and that's another thing that does come out, issues in childhood, things that may have happened, trauma, as we call it, that has been unresolved. That tends to come up a lot, men and women. It's there. And that is one of the things that, as a community, and that's what I've seen as well when you know, I've worked with people who have had horrific cases of rape, and you know, the release in the space is just awesome. It's like, oh my gosh. And I knew that, you know, they need specialized help, and I'll send them to, you know, a rape unit or rape, for example, or someone who's had a traumatic experience, and you know, they go on to a counselor and they'll come back and they said, look, I remember this woman, she said, I took one look at that woman and I knew she wouldn't get it. It was a European woman that she was so she came back with, you know, and although I could help her to a certain degree, I wanted someone who worked in that area, because I just referred her to a unit, and of course but she couldn't relate. And that is going to be so important that we have more and more. So what I tend to do is to forward people onto people in the community who are in that field, and that's the kind of networking that we're talking about, healers who specialize in different areas, that we can feel comfortable sending, you know, that when a sister sits down, she feels comfortable, and there's certain things that's unsaid, you don't have to say it. And that's what she said. She goes, this woman wouldn't understand me, and you know,
well,
and
it's
again,
it's about cultural competence at the end of the day. You know, it's like, you know, they're not going to get particular aspects, subtle nuances about our community, because they weren't in it, they weren't raised in it, they don't understand even the tones. You know, you hear maybe at night two Nigerians having a conversation and thinking it's an argument. You're just not going to get it. And so women, and that's one of the reasons why I do this show, and I give thanks. You know, the brothers have just like let me do my thing, and give me full reign now. Give thanks, and but that's why I do the show, because it highlights. In fact, our next show is going to be about the wounded masculine, and I've got a very special guest.
Nice. You're not saying.
I'm not telling you.
You're not saying.
You're going to have to tune in, but it's from the USA. So it's going to be a powerful conversation. That's because it's about our healing. And, you know, I know as a woman, and I'm fortunate, I have 3 sons. So I always think about their healing as males in the future. And I think to myself, okay, you know what? What's in place for them? Who is in the community for them? Yeah. So, you know, to support them with that, or to talk about this, or to talk about that. So, you know, that guy helps to guide me, not just for myself and family members or friends, or somebody might just make a suggestion and I'll be like, yeah, you know what, you're right. You know, that makes sense to have that kind of person on, or what have you. It's all about healing, because, you know, we had this kind of conversation about quarantine and all these kinds of things. And I can definitely see us going back into one of these situations again. You know, it was a 2-year test space for them. Yeah. I can't imagine it's just, ta-da, it's over. Yes, I get that they've got, you know, there's a beautiful cover up with this, Ukraine and Russia situation, but underneath stuff is coming. Yeah, you can feel it bubbling to the surface. So that's why we're keeping these conversations going. So, you know, share it with your friends. If you've been in this conversation before and you've heard this, share it with your friends, because these conversations are going to come back. We're going to be back in that conversation at some point where they're going to be talking about variants, more of this, and a lot more, different conversations around that. So, I just said thank you, Christian Cosmetics. Give thanks, sis. And I don't think I've met this sister, but yeah, we're due to meet, sis. We're due to meet. So, but yeah, I just want to really thank you for you coming on the space and just supporting, you know, the women and men in our community. You know, your work is so valuable. And then, you know, when you came on, just, you know, with the ICU conversation, and then, you know, getting to know you just like this and some more, you know, it was a natural and an organic must. Yeah, a must. Yeah. And you know, we have to understand the jewels in our community. You know, it's about highlighting our gifts, highlighting the jewels in our community, and highlighting the resources. Yeah, because when when it all goes down, we want to know who's who. Yeah, we want to know who's got your back in that area, who will support with that. And so that's, you know, what, you know, for me, that's part of the purpose of doing this. Yeah, I don't really have to do it. I could easily just be carrying on, doing what I'm doing, doodling under the quiet, like I usually do, underground, do my thing, no problem. Yeah. However,
you got your calling and you answered it.
Well, you know, I was asked to come into the space. So I'll come into this space, give thanks. I mean, but I just really want to acknowledge the work that you've done. I can imagine, you know, I know we're going to have other conversations, and I am definitely going to have a conversation with you about herbs and things like that, because we're going to probably go in on, you know,
that's a whole thing. I mean, it's been very kind of, you know, because it's just so much been general. I mean, that's a whole thing. And so when you go straight in, that's a whole thing. And yeah, that is a whole thing on itself, herbs and herbal healing and the plant life and the, you know, that's a whole thing in itself. So yeah.
Absolutely. So I just want to make sure that, you know, that people know who you are, that people get a sense that, you know, you are valuable to our community. And I just want to really thank you for your, you know, the work that you've done so far. I know someone who's coming to see you tomorrow or something as well. So they messaged me when they saw it. They went, "Oh my goodness." I said, "Yo," I won't say anyone. Of course I won't. And I won't say anyone's names, but I just said, "Yo, look at that." She said, "I said it's beautiful." But so, you know, and that's what you notice is how connected, you know, it is. It's like 1 degree of separation. Yeah, literally. Yeah. So I'm really honored and blessed that I'm meeting you in this way. And I know we'll get to meet each other in the flesh at some point. I just know.
Definitely. We keep forgetting we've met at Cheese thing, but I'm sure it was you who.
Are you going this year? Are you going this year? Are you going again this year?
Yes. If I told her, like, I'm getting everything sorted out, so I'll be there this year. So yeah, it'd be great to be out there.
I'll be there. We'll be there. Okay, we could chop it up properly then.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Oh, I look forward to it. So, sis, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
On. You know, and you know, if you've got anything else that's coming up, don't hesitate to contact me, you know. Thank you. You know, even when, you know, you've kind of like developed some areas or your websites and things like that, or your social media, or you're doing more, just keep me posted. Yeah,
definitely. And you know, when we have these ones that we're going to be doing, these health, you know, series that we're going to be doing, because you do midwifery, right?
I'm a doula, professional birthing partner. So like a traditional midwife then.
That's the one, the traditional midwife. So
midwife,
again, it would be good to have persons like yourself when we start to look in certain areas. So we'll be calling your phone as well. All right.
All right. Well, I'll happily attend and I'll happily participate if you need it. Yeah, it's an absolute honor. Yes, somebody asked, will you be able to rewatch this? Yes, use the same link. Come back onto Good Kush and you'll see it goes straight away. Actually, it goes right up straight away. Uploads pretty much straight after this, so you'll be fine to rewatch it if you've missed any. And somebody asked about Shakara. Yes, he's a busy brother these days, so he's giving me the you know, I'm holding the reins now at this time. Yes, until, you know, things may change, but as it stands right now, I'm hosting the show for now.
Well,
Yeah, so I give
Well
thanks.
done.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you, my
sis.
sister.
I'm gonna,
Blessings. Thank you.
and if you want to, I'm gonna put you backstage. If you want to stay there for a minute, and then I'll just wrap up the show. That'd be
No
lovely.
problem.
All
Blessing
right,
and give
you
thanks
just stay
again,
there.
sis.
You're welcome,
Blessings.
Queen. Thank you. Just stay there for me. Oh, how lovely! Just how lovely this woman is. I just feel so blessed and warm. Yeah, it feels like a mother that I haven't quite met yet, yeah, in the physical. And I'll get to see her in July when I'm at the festival, so that'd be fantastic. But I just really want to thank everybody for engaging in tonight's show. It's been amazing. Yeah, all the people inside of the chat, thank you so much for that. And yes, we will be having a guest next. Should be next week, actually. It'll be an excellent conversation because the conversation, we had the last show we had Sister Chia, and we were talking, and two other, and Brother Kai and Andre. We were having a conversation about He's Vulnerable When, and I will actually be at the film showing for that. I've booked my ticket, so I will be there. And but then I've the day after, in fact, it was that day, but it was obviously different time zones. We were talking about He's Vulnerable then, and I think we talked about a few things. And then we found out that Kevin Samuels passed away. The infamous Kevin Samuels passed away. And, there's been lots of conversations. And I was actually, that weekend, I went on to Clubhouse and I listened to some of the conversations. I engaged in some of the conversations around that. So, I think it's only fair to have a brother come in and let's chop up that conversation and look at it from lots of different perspectives. Yeah. So, it's not about celebrating somebody's passing, but we have to look at the spiritual implications of that and what it will look like going forward. Yeah. And what emotional implications those have. Yeah. Because, how you live. Yeah, it's like if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And there's that saying in the Caribbean, what miss you don't pass you. And so we have to look at, okay, how are we living, and what does that look like, and what does that mean? What does it now mean for men? Yeah, because there'll be men out there who will feel, ride or die for this guy, and then there'll be also, I think, brothers that will feel somewhat kind of like a release in, we're all going to want to feel loved at some point. We're all going to want to love or be loved at some point. So this kind of narrative about, simp culture, incels, all of these kinds of things, we're going to chop it up with a brother for our next show. Okay, so all being well, yeah, we'll have that show next week, and I'm not telling you who he is. You will have to wait and see. But tune in. It's going to be a popper. Yeah. Anyway, I'll give thanks. I look at somebody else has said they're looking forward to the festival as well. Yes, I'm looking forward to the festival as well. So that's going to be fantastic. So just until then, I give thanks, and I really want to thank you for participating inside of the show tonight as well, because when you guys get really involved, you really get involved in it. so I just really want to thank you for that, because it makes a difference to the conversation as well when you're engaging in the conversation, and we're not having to kind of like convince you that it's an important conversation to have. And you know what, turn on your notifications, share it, what have you, with people, because at the end of the day, we also know that the algorithms are doing what the algorithms are doing. Yeah, so let's not pretend that the algorithms aren't messing with this thing. Yeah, so just share it, engage in it, and appreciate everybody here this evening. So like I say, and like I'm saying, and like we will be saying, yeah, as always, you ain't got nothing if you ain't got kush. So till next time, take care.